Welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. Thank you for stopping by. This is brought to you by labmediatv. My name is Hezekiah Morales, and here we go. Remember to follow us on social media at labmediatv. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. We are very excited to bring onto the show a gentleman out of Philadelphia. He has been in the industry for quite a while, since 2011, and he has great information to share, a great story. Very excited because I have not spoken to somebody that works in this discipline yet, but we will get into it today. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Bob Work. Bob, welcome to the show.
How are you doing? I'm excited to be here.
I'm fantastic, and I'm excited to have you on. We did a little poll a few weeks ago, before Chicago actually, on for the people that listen to the podcast, who they wanted to hear of next. Your name was one of the names that came on, and that was chosen, or that was tagged, and I was excited to immediately go to your page, see what the things that you were doing. I saw these wires and all these things. I'm like, man, I haven't seen this before. So I was very, very excited to see what this is all about. Bob, how long have you been in the industry?
This year is my 10th year.
Okay, this year
started in, I think, November of 2011.
Wow, awesome. And so, how did you get started in dental? Because I know that you went to school for something completely, entirely, diametrically opposed to teeth, and now we're in dental. So, what happened?
Okay, yeah. So, well, I went to school for forest science, which is not about teeth at all. One day I was at a party at my friend's house, and I went upstairs to use the bathroom, and I accidentally opened the door to her dad's dental lab. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, my friend Zara's dad is a mad scientist. And I was just super interested in all the tools and all the weird stuff that I saw. So then for maybe the next 2 or 3 years, I just kept asking her to ask her dad to teach me what his job was. And eventually he finally cracked, and he started helping me learn what was going on in there.
He finally cracked. You finally convinced him. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So it was a home lab. You walk in there, you see what's going on here. You think you're walking into a movie set, maybe, right? What is this guy doing down here?
Yeah.
But what was it that really intrigued you into actually getting into this?
I'm not really sure. I always liked making models and like little tiny tedious things, and pretty much everything I saw on his lab bench was right up my alley, and it just looked like that's what I was supposed to learn about, I guess.
Wow. Very interesting. And for those of us that are not so pervious to the ins and outs of what you do, your day-to-day operations, we know you work with wires, but it's not that simple. Fill us in.
Okay. So basically, we make like one-of-a-kind wire appliances. Mostly for children that help expand their jaw and help make sure their face can grow to their maximum potential, opening up their airway and just making for healthy smiles and beautiful looking faces, pretty much.
Very interesting. And so that is done by the manipulation of the bone through these wires.
Correct. Yeah. Actually, right before this started, I looked up what happens when you Google Crozat, and there's a pretty breathy explanation about it. But basically it explained that through the use of force in wires, you use the teeth pretty much as handles of the bones or the facial structure, and you kind of, in a sense, like guide it to grow forward and open.
Very interesting. And what are some of the tools that you use on a day-to-day basis?
They're all right there. Basically, just a bunch of pliers and a pretty sweet torch. I mean, we solder mostly with silver. Sometimes people request gold if they have certain allergies or whatnot. But pretty much just cobalt steel wire, pliers, and silver solder.
Wow, very interesting, very interesting. So, so going back to this story, you walk in on this gentleman that has a lab. You are intrigued by it. How long did it take for you to convince him to take you under his wing?
A long time. The very first time I'm friends with his daughter. And as soon as I saw it, I said, "Hey, you got to tell your dad that I'm really interested in this and I want to learn." And her first response was, "He's not going to teach you. He doesn't want to teach anybody." And so it took a while. Had to soften him up. But then one day he knew that I had off of work on Mondays, and he just showed up at my house on a Monday with a big crate full of tools, and then that's pretty much how it all started.
Wow. Was it love at first twist?
Yeah, love at first bend.
At first bend. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And did you know that this was what you were going to do the moment you started hands-on with this, or did it take a while?
I mean, it took a while because it probably took me 3 or 4 months to learn how to bend a crescent, which is just a simple U-shaped wire, but it has to be perfect or it doesn't work. And I just remember for like 2 or 3 hours a day after work, just bending a crescent for the same tooth like 500 or 600 times, and each one got a tiny little bit better. And I just couldn't imagine, like, why would anyone want to sit there and do this all day? It's so frustrating.
Wow.
And tedious. But as soon as you got one that was perfect and was right, it was such a good feeling of satisfaction that I guess I got hooked to that feeling.
Wow. Very interesting. So it was self-satisfaction, the satisfaction that you got of actually accomplishing something that was very, very frustrating at first. But your journey from that point to now, have you been able to see your work, the effects of your work at all? How it's changed a patient's outcome? Have you experienced that yet?
Oh yeah. It doesn't happen often, but when like a repair comes back, I'll see. Obviously, I can't remember what their mouth looked like the first time we made the appliance, but I'll see it maybe 10 months later when something might break, and I'll just see these beautiful wide arches, wide smiles, and it also helps with the satisfaction part.
Wow. So you really haven't seen a patient, because of course there's like privacy and all that stuff, but you've definitely seen the progress of your work through this manner, getting work back.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen different doctors that I work for present case studies where I get to see, start to finish.
Oh wow.
Like maybe an 8 or 10 year old child, and then, when they're a young adult and they have, their smile's totally different. And so that part's really satisfying. But
Wow.
I probably make like 2 or 3 appliances a day, and I don't get to see every single one, but
Right.
maybe once every couple of months I'll get to see something.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, I know that a lot of things are going digital right now in the dental technology, the field of dental technology here. A lot of things are going digital. Is there anything that's being affected positively from digital dentistry that is being transposed into what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, sure. The accuracy of a 3D printed model, you just don't even have to guess. That's a perfect representation of what this person's mouth looks like. But there's some negatives to that. Lately I've had to duplicate a lot of plastic models into plaster so that I can solder on them, and that part's kind of a pain. But I'm sure it won't be long until they print them, with a material that you can solder on and it doesn't burn like plastic.
Right. The heat is too much, and it just got it. Wow, very interesting. So what is your process? You get the digital impression and you print out a 3D model of what you need?
Well, I would say maybe 60 or 70% are still plaster models, so I don't have to do anything different. But when a 3D model does come, I have to duplicate it, and it's just an extra step that I'm not really fond of.
Because you have to right makes sense. You have an extra step or a few extra steps to do there. That's very interesting. Do you see anything Do you see anything in digital that's going to be changing, facilitating a few processes in your workflow?
Facilitating?
Facilitating
like
efficiency, a little faster, maybe a little better.
Oh, sure. Well, just knowing that the model is 100% accurate, and with a digital model, I'll never have to send one back because it's a lousy impression. So that part is great. But I won't be happy until I can get a 3D printed model and just work right on that without having to make a copy of it in plaster.
Now, going back to the science of what it is that you do, you don't just bend metal. There is a science behind it. Obviously, in order for this appliance to go in the mouth, the understanding of the function of the mouth and all this, obviously you're working with primarily children, right? So the osseo is not hardened to its full potential yet. So your training, the training that you got from your mentor, that included, I'm assuming, this type of training of understanding how the bone is, how the structure of the mouth is supposed to develop, all that. Am I right?
Yeah. My mentor is Jimmy Martin. He's the Crozat master. But he has a really good way of explaining things without using terminology that someone who didn't go to dentistry school, might not understand. But basically, the way he explained it to me is almost like if you have a tooth and you have pressure on it, the bone in front of it is going to dissolve so that it can move, and then it's going to regrow behind the direction that you're pushing. And pretty much every Crozat just pushes forward and outward so that you have room for every single tooth in your head.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And so you had to have this understanding to be able to perform your job efficiently. It wasn't just bending wires.
Correct. Yeah. There was a lot to learn about. I didn't know that pretty much every single person on Earth, their you know, they don't have enough room in their head for all their teeth, basically. And they, you know, Crozats just help that happen.
Very interesting. Wow, very interesting. And right now, you have been working at this lab, performing these tasks and this discipline since 2011, almost 10 years now. Are you moving into another aspect of this? Are you transitioning into something else? Is there something that technology is bringing in that's helping you perform your job at a higher capacity, at a different capacity?
No, not yet. I'd say the biggest part that affects me is just knowing that it's an accurate model.
Right, the accurate model.
I don't have to second guess. Yeah. Other than that, though, not yet.
Not really. Okay.
I'm sure it will. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so again, the tools that you use, the tools of the trade are pliers and all these different. The bird beak, right, is one of the ones that you use the most. Am I right?
Yeah, my favorite. Yeah.
And so someone that would be interested in getting involved in what you're doing and is a little shy to approach somebody as you did, what would your recommendation be?
I would recommend that they got a roll of 0.7 millimeter Leone wire and just tried to bend it in different shapes until they use the whole thing, and then do it again and again until they can make whatever shape they want to make.
Wow. So the development of the dexterity in that particular discipline.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You said your mentor, Mr. Jimmy
Martin.
Mr. Jimmy Martin. So how many more of these professionals do we have in the United States? Do you know?
I don't know. There's at least a few, but it's not a large number at all.
I don't. Yeah. I didn't think so either.
Yeah, it's not a big number at all. Yeah, I don't know what else to say
perfect.
about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically, what we would have to say about that is that this is a very niche, a very small community of professionals that work with this particular discipline. That's amazing.
Correct.
That is awesome. And so I'm assuming you're artistic in one way or another, because you were in culinary as well, correct?
Yeah, I was a butcher before this.
Okay. So what else do you do outside of bending wires?
I bend jewelry wires. I don't know. I have a kayak.
That's exciting. So you keep it outdoors.
Yeah.
You got to get out of the lab every now and then, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
a lot of the technicians that I speak with have definitely mentioned that in their development they were pulling 10, 12 hours, 16-hour days. Has that been the same in this particular discipline?
No, I've never worked more than like a 10-hour day, but not because I don't want to, but because your attention just runs out. And if you're trying to do it and you're not doing it right, you might as well not be doing it at all. So there's like a limit to how long you can pay that close of attention, I guess, or at least for me.
Very interesting. So you would say it does require a high level of concentration to be able to get this right, then?
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to be really, really, really tedious, and you need to concentrate pretty hard.
So, Bob, what do you do to keep your focus?
I just try to get in the zone. I'm not really sure. It's kind of like I can just tell if I'm paying enough attention or not. And once I'm not, I'll get up from the desk and take a 10-minute walk or something and sit back down and then try to get back in the groove.
I see, because definitely something, as you mentioned, something tedious. There are different types of people, and there are people that have a very, very short concentration tolerances. And so that's very interesting to me that you would mention that. So whenever it is that you feel that your focus is veering off, you you step back, take a break, reset, and then come back in. Is that it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've been able to continue that process for 10 years now.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't, were you in Chicago?
No, I wasn't. I didn't even know that it was such a big deal, and I just heard about it a little too late. But I saw all your posts about it, and it looked like it was pretty fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean that's one of the see Bob, that's one of the purposes for Lab Media TV that in the podcast world has brought the podcast, the Dental Today podcast, for those that are they're so focused in their zone that sometimes they don't have an opportunity to go to these places, and sometimes in your case they haven't heard or they don't know the magnitude of these events. And definitely Lab Day is a phenomenal event. It is very social, obviously, very, very social, because you're able to see your friends in the industry and people that one follows on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. However, I find that it's an eye-opener because we're able to see where the industry is going towards. And I was asking you about the technology because I recently received a video, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. And that's why I asked you if you had gone to Chicago, because I didn't see you there. I saw this machine that is now bending wires, and it does the entire protocol. The little machine does the entire protocol, and then at the end, it doesn't spit it out, but it just releases the wire, and at the end, the wire is done, right? And it's like a little machine. So that's why I was asking you, and it's very interesting for us to look into this because, of course, every technology has its learning curve as well, right? And I believe that it's very important for us to understand where technology is going. But definitely, Bob, we have to see you there next year.
I'll go next year for sure.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. We need to see Mr. Bob work on the floor.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard Mr. Bob work here. He already committed to it, so you can hold him to it. Go follow him on his page, on his Instagram. Bob, it's been a pleasure having you on. I see here that your page is at daily_crozat. That's at DAILY_CROZAT. Do you have a Facebook as well?
No, I don't.
I didn't find one.
Instagram.
So just Instagram. Perfect. I've been following your work since one of our listeners mentioned you to bring you on. So we've been following your work. We appreciate your work. We appreciate you coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, send love to his page. Send him comments and pictures and all these good things, and welcome him to the community. Hopefully, we can definitely see you there in Chicago next year, Bob.
Yeah. All right.
Bob, it's been a pleasure. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you soon.